Hello there, one and all. Welcome to Slapendipity Hobos of Happy Slappy Town. I am Eric, who you may call Eric. And with me, I have Devin, who you may call Gibby. Say hi.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
That was Gibby welcoming. Please join us by the fire as I regale you in a tale of electric fire, by which I mean to say the New York cities. I went to the New York cities. Devin, do you like the New York cities?
I think I may have said this, but I haven't been to New York as an adult. I
Yeah.
went on, oh, my family's going into the city either to, run an errand, or, we're gonna see our cousin, or we're gonna go and look at the memorial, right? I never have gone into the city for, a day trip, or, to do anything fun, which will be changing in a couple weeks. But as of right now, haven't been, don't know.
Technically, there was the baseball game that we brought up, you know.
Yeah, us going to a baseball game isn't going to the
No,
city,
you don't go into
Us,
the city. But
New York Comic Con taking a ferry to the Javits Center is not going into the city.
yeah, but you're there, but you're not there. So I had a group of friends who were like, screw it, we ball, and we're going to New York City to have a little fun day trip. And overall, it was a fun day trip. Uh, and we hung out mostly in Times Square just because there was a specific restaurant we wanted to eat at, which was in Times Square. So we just didn't want to get too, where you're going to travel all the boroughs and then just come back to Times Square? No. Um, so it was really cool. It was fun. It reminded me of like, yes, this is why I should only be here for like once a year. It wasn't that bad really. But you just deal with people all the time and you can't not deal with people, and then you deal with pedestrians and cars, and I don't know if you can tell I'm not a super huge city person. Uh, However, I don't have a ton of like funny, amazing stories. It was just kind of a simple, chill. Let's go to this bookstore and check out all these things, and it's the big bookstore because it's in New York City and it's like the headquarters or whatever, like the Hershey's headquarters, and they have all kinds of. They gave you chocolate as you walked in just for walking in.
Hmm.
Um, But I've already told you this, Devin, and you made it a fun little joke. But no, I mean it is. But no, at one point in our trip, we were walking on the sidewalk as you do, getting to our destinations. And I had some people in front of me that were walking in the same direction, and I had some people approaching me from the opposite direction on my other side. So, people approaching me were on my left, the people walking slightly ahead of me, but with me, were on my right. And I did not know these people ahead of me. I was leading the pack of friends. So, I the people walking towards me, they like almost bump into me, so I just move out of the way a little, just do a little side step, and that led me into the people on my right side. And I, not a lot, but just kind of got very close. Maybe I bumped into them, maybe. And the response that this guy had, whether if it was intentional or not, I'll never know, but he just quietly moaned of just ah, and then I just didn't know what to do with myself and just stopped to let them get ahead. And then I told everyone that I was walking with of, oh my gosh, I made his day.
Y- You lightly bumped into a stranger on the New York City sidewalk and he moaned in pleasure.
Yes.
The the uh th- sometimes when I think of the big scary city, I think of like muggers. I think of like terrorist plots. I
Hmm.
think of like big scary guy gonna beat me up because I wore the wrong kind of shoes to the club. You know, the club that I definitely go to.
Hmm. Hmm.
But then there's stuff like that story you just told me, where it's like, no, actually, everyone is scary.
Just different
Um,
ways.
my one friend who's been living in LA since we started the podcast, um, sent me a Snapchat where he was just walking down the sidewalk. It was like not nighttime, but like the sun was setting, and there was just a guy in front of him who was just walking down the street completely naked. And I was
Oh,
like, why did you send that to me? And he's like, that's just what it's like out here. I want to come home.
balls.
There's just weird people out there. And in the city, you can't get away from them.
No, no. And, he just kept walking. It's not like he looked at me and made direct eye contact as he moaned or anything. And
Mm-hmm.
he could have just been exhaling air because someone bumped into him and he was just like, oh, this guy. But it just came out wrong.
There's an old Tumblr post that was like, hey, if you're getting bullied in high school, if you're getting picked on and beaten up by the jocks, every time they punch you, just start moaning in pleasure to establish your dominance. Make them uncomfortable, and they'll never do it again.
I mean, it sounds like it would work.
You said you went
Wacky.
to a sort of fancy restauranty place.
Yes.
What's the name of that restaurant?
Uh, Gyaku? It was a Korean barbecue place.
All right, guys. So if any of you go to Gyaku, the Korean barbecue place, make sure they know that Slapendipity Hobos of Happy Slappy Town sent you.
If you download their app, they give you free ice cream.
Free ice cream?
If you download their app, though.
Okay. I mean, I would download the app. You went on like the hottest day
Yeah,
of the year.
yeah,
It's been crazy hot.
yeah. I didn't want to. It, it like isn't my story, but one of my friends. It was so hot. One of my friends ended up getting sick from it, and they had to bail
Oof.
out early. So,
Wow.
rip. They're fine now. I as they went back home fine. And that I said rip, not a metaphorical. They're okay. I did not
Yeah,
mean
rip to the fun times that you would have had, not that this person died of a heat stroke.
right. um.
So while you in the A story were having this fun New York City adventure,
Hmm.
I in the B story of this episode was dealing with probably the lowest stakes risk game of croquet that anyone has ever played.
All right. It's light on me.
So this was the same day that you were in the city that our other friend George was having his birthday party slash 4th of July party slash family member graduating party. So basically, his family was just throwing a big get together for people of all ages, of aunts and uncles and cousins and friends of all the siblings and all that stuff. So there's a bunch of different people running around. So me and a friend George and a friend Drew and a friend Drew's husband, we were all just hanging out and we were getting some pretzels. We were drinking some sodas. I wasn't. I was drinking water. I'm a sad boy. We were walking around the house, playing with the dog. At one, we played Foursquare at one point, got very sweaty. But in the front yard, George had this croquet set. And croquet, if you don't know, is, I imagine, like mini golf, kind of. You have a mallet and you got a ball and you set up these gates in this figure eight configuration, and you have to hit the ball through the gate. and you got to go in a big like loopy. So you go right, and then you go middle, then you go left, then you go top, then you go right, then you go middle, then you go left, then you go bottom. It's this big 8 shape. And if you hit the ball and it goes through a gate, then you get to hit it again. And if you hit a ball and if you hit someone else's ball, then you get to go again. But otherwise, it's typically you get one tap of the ball and you're trying to get it through the gate. Again, imagine like mini golf. Whoever set up this course set it up on a typical American suburban front lawn. So the entire thing was pitched at an angle. There were roots, and there were ditches, there were parts that were just dirt, there were parts that were tall, unmown grass, there were some pachysandras, there were some sticks. Basically, it was the type of terrain you should not be playing croquet on. Now this is fine, I thought to myself. I've played things like bocce on a typical American suburban lawn with divots and holes and mowed grass and things like that. Obstacles. Those are just fun obstacles, I said.
That's right.
We spent an hour trying to get our balls through the third ring, the middle of the 8, the third gate. Because it was not at the top of this hill, but toward the middle of the hill. So if you missed, the ball just rolled all the way back down. And you couldn't do a half tap, you couldn't set it up to get closer to the gate because the ball would just roll back down. And so we'd have these extremely rare scenarios. Every 10 minutes, someone would knock the ball so that it did rest on the hill. It rested in, like, oh my god, it landed on this twig, so it's in this precarious spot, so on my next turn, I actually kind of have a shot at the gate. And then you would have this perfectly executed tap, but then it would, like, hit a pebble or something, and it would bounce off track and go all the way back down. And then we would all start fighting our way up from the bottom again, because if you bounce your ball off someone else's, you get a free hit. So we're all just down there at the bottom of this hill, shooting each other's balls out of the way, trying to get to the top of the hill so we can get a shot on the gate, and then just rolling all the way back down again. And so we literally spent an hour, none of us able to get the ball through this middle gate, stubbornly refusing to accept that this is simply not the way the game is supposed to be played, but doing it anyway.
That's beautiful. It's a real tale of the human struggle.
Yeah, we didn't make any progress, and then we went inside because it was time for food.
Beautiful, amazing. I have played with the house rule of, like, if you just hit the gate, it counts. Like, you don't have to get it through. But it, like, that's the goal, right? You want to hit it through. But if you just, like, swipe the, if you just swipe the gate, that counts.
We were stubborn. We wanted to beat the game at its own rules. Like, I can see this 100% being an episode of a sitcom where the A story is Eric wandering through the city and all the cool things he's seeing, and then every couple of minutes where they need a break, it just cuts back to the same 4 idiots trying to get the same ball through the same holes in croquet, and then just, like, spending 30 seconds on that, and then cut back to Eric's amazing, very cool, fun story, and then cut back to us being stupid with the mallets.
I think the B story in this scenario could have so much potential, though, right? Where, like, the person that got it in the very precarious position, then it's set up right, and it's like, hey, you must be using a weighted mallet. Let me see it. And like, no, it's fine. And then, like, everyone starts fighting over it.
We also, just for literally no reason, were sitting in the living room because, again, it was so hot. It was so hot, so we were just in there. And, like, George's, like, cousin wanted to watch the soccer game, so then, like, the dad put on the soccer game, but then the cousin wasn't there, so we were all just sitting there watching the soccer game that none of us cared about. So we just changed the channel, and, drive-ins, dive bars, and
Diners,
whatever that show's
drive-ins,
called.
and dives.
That show, Guy Fieri, that show was on. And so we were all just, like, transfixed at the pretty colors on screen. And then Drew's husband goes, oh, I was at a restaurant when they were filming this show.
Oh.
And we were like, what? He's like, yeah, I was at a restaurant, and they came in, like, they didn't, like, interview me or, like, film me eating food, but, like, I was there when they were filming the episode. And so I look it up and I Google it, and I'm like, okay, so the episode we're looking for is this episode in season 2, episode 39. And I find the episode on Wikipedia, and then we go and we look on demand, and that season ends before that episode. Like, it's literally not there. And then we look it up on streaming, and it's not there. And we're like, what the heck? Why? Like, this episode's just missing. We Google
Hmm.
it. Apparently they don't have the rights to certain sporadic random episodes.
Hmm.
So a few episodes just aren't available on streaming anywhere. They just aren't anywhere. And so this one episode that we wanted to watch for one segment to maybe see if our friend was in the background, we couldn't find. And we were like, wow, Guy Fieri beat us again.
That guy. This just makes me think of, you owe nothing in this digital age.
Yeah, which is bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I guess I can go on the topic of owning things. That's a transition, I guess. So I get to George's house and we're chilling and we go in his basement where we used to hang out a lot as kids. And his family has always been very into Lego. His uncle was into it, his dad was into it, he was into it as a kid, his little brother was into it. So they got these sets from the 70s on the shelf next to these sets from the mid 2010s when like we would have been too old for him, but his brother would have been like just the right age. So I'm looking through as someone who like as an adult has gotten into the hobby. And I think I said this before, but like I had a couple Lego sets as a kid. Wow, this is cool. And then over COVID, it became like a fixation, an obsession. I wasn't into it until COVID, until I was an adult. And I'm looking through and I'm like, wow, this set, I think this is from 2012, and wow, this is the SpongeBob set where they had this figure and it's actually a misprint, and oh my god, this is so cool. And we're going down like they got Lego cities and they got Star Warses and SpongeBob's and DC's and Marvels. And so we're going through all the sets, and there's no organization. These are just stuff tossed onto a shelf. It's all covered in dust. These are toys that were set down by a child 10 years ago because now that child is like in his 20s. And I'm looking, and I see this one Lego minifigure, and it's of the character Captain Rex from Star Wars. And I'm like, hang on. There was a Captain Rex minifigure that came out this year, but before that, there hadn't been one in 10 years. And that one from 10 years ago is worth like $200.
Oh.
So I reach over and I look at it, and just sitting on the shelf is this $200 Lego minifigure.
Hmm.
And I'm like, this is like the thing that the collectors dream slash have nightmares of, where there's just some kid out there who bought a toy that was meant for him that has in the years since become a valuable collector's item, who doesn't know what he has and is just sitting in a tub of old Lego. He just has this $200 figure just sitting out, and he has no idea what it's worth. And so I'm like, yo, we have to tell your brother that he has a $200 minifigure right here. And like I'm looking at it, and there's like a piece missing. There's supposed to be this cloth cape that goes with it, and it's not there. I'm like, I wonder if like he could find it. And I'm going through this whole like, how do I get this kid his $200? And then the solution, the end of the conversation was he doesn't care. And
Lols.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh,
This is like the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me in this Lego space, and the person who owns it is just like whatever.
that's so. That's kind of what. Mm, like, doesn't care because he wants to keep it.
I guess doesn't care to look through everything he has to put it in perfect shape to then like list it on eBay. Like if you found out that one of your manga volumes had a misprint and was crazy rare and worth $200,
I would.
would you sell it and then buy the non messed up version for $10 so then your collection was still complete? Or would you be like, neat, and then you keep it on your shelf and then read it, and then if someone asks what the coolest thing in your room is, you could go, oh, well, this book's worth $200, but I got it for 10. Like, which one of those is the Eric move?
I would sell it and then get the normal version and have the completed set. I
All right.
I don't um like if it's you like I don't know. I just wouldn't care. I'd be like, shrug, shrug. Um, it's also just money. Like that's free. That's free money. If I have a misprinted book or a Lego figure and it's $200, and I just sell it and get $200, that's $200. I can
Do you have any sentimental attachment to anything from your childhood
no.
that were you to find out it was valuable, you wouldn't sell it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, they're
Like what?
highly specific, except for one of them. So I'll do the not um I'll do my greatest goof now, and
Okay.
then I'll get into the sentimental ones later. In fourth grade, my teacher was a huge Harry Potter nerd, and one of the
Mm-hmm.
books had recently come out. Don't ask me which one. And for
In
class,
fourth grade, that would have been probably Order of the Phoenix.
thank you. So in class, she separated us into groups. Some people were designated as leaders who got to pick their other teammates, and she made the Hogwarts houses, and whoever won, she would keep points and you would get points on like, are you participating in class? Are you being, just generally a good, you help someone that dropped their books, whatever thing, right? Anything she could assign points to, she would. And whatever house had the most points would win a little trophy and like a secret prize. So we did this for the year, and at the end of the year, I'm sorry. Naturally, I was picked a leader. Naturally, my house was Gryffindor. Um, and we had won. Um, I don't remember all the things we did, but we won. So she went to some shop that like you know did little trophies of like congratulations, like Gryffindor winner Eric. And the secret prize, everyone in the house got it. So there were like 4 copies or something because there was only so many of us. And I think it was Goblet of Fire that came out actually. Um, because the secret prize was a signed photograph by Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert. Sorry, I don't know your last name, Rupert.
Grint.
Rent. Um,
Grint with a G.
Grint. Sorry, Grint. It was a picture of the 3 of them like on the set of Goblet of Fire, and they all signed it. And that was the secret prize. And I have no idea where that is now.
You don't know where it is?
No.
All this buildup and you don't know where that is?
Yeah, that's why this is the dumb one. This I goofed it.
No!
Um,
Oh my
I
god.
may have given it to a friend because I didn't care about it.
I'm gonna cry. You're
Uh,
telling a story. I'm like, I think I've heard this story before, but I've never seen the picture.
yeah, that's
Wow.
why.
Wow.
Um, I remember like going on eBay when I was like, a teenager and being like, oh, this isn't selling for anything, so whatever. Um, and that is probably the most obvious, like, you have a little piece of treasure and you just messed it up. And I mean, my teacher, she had a friend who was like in the movie industry, so she went to the premiere screening of Goblet of Fire or Order of the Phoenix, whichever it was.
So
And
the The movie that came out that year would have been Goblet of Fire. The book that
Okay,
came
yeah,
out
yeah.
around that time would have been Order of the Phoenix.
So yeah, so movie Goblet of Fire. So she went to the premiere, and then she was at the premiere and saw the three leads and was like, "Hey, do me a solid," and they were like, "Yeah, sure."
Oh my gosh.
Um, and now who's to say? It could be burned. It could be in some the trash in the landfill. We'll never. It was
You're like, I'm
framed,
gonna cry. Oh my god.
so yeah, yeah.
Our friend who's in LA just got invited to his first world premiere. He's gonna see Twisters,
Ooh,
the sequel to Twister
yeah,
that has Glenn Powell.
yeah. It's about chasing
So that's
tornadoes.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like exciting. Like I'd love to go to a world premiere, cough cough. But it's also just like a movie that I don't care about. Like it would be
Yeah.
awesome. It would be cool. It would be fun. But like,
Then you have to
whatever.
watch a movie that you're like, this is dumb.
I mean, no, that's it. It doesn't matter if the movie's bad. It's just like, yeah, I get to meet Glenn Powell. I sure wish I was invited to like, the Deadpool 3 movie
Mm,
premiere though. That would be really cool.
Ryan Reynolds. Um,
Yeah,
te-
Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and all those people.
to go back just a smidge, um, on the question of like, if I found out I had objects, what would I do with them? The sentimental ones of like, my best friend gave it to me, and back in like kindergarten or first grade or whatever, and it was they gave me a little gift, and like for some reason it's just super expensive, super rare, and for some reason people are really into plush, and it was like $200, $1,000. I'd be like, nah, no thanks. This is one of the few ties I have left.
Oh.
What about you? Would you?
I think if my, I was broke, I had to sell everything I own. I think like the last, like, I would be homeless, living on the street in a cardboard box with my childhood Charizard card tucked in my shoe before I sold it.
Mm, now people are going to be mad at you that you're putting your sweaty feet on the Charizard card.
Hmm. Well, it's in a case. It's in a PSA graded case. It's fine. It's safe. It's whatever. It's happy. Just a little
It's
boy.
happy.
He is. He's a 4. He's doing his best. I think he's a 4. Yeah, no. What? Where is he?
Devin, you can't stick your hand
He's a
in the fire to
5.
get him.
He's a 5.
Hooray, he's halfway there.
Perfectly average. Perfectly average. While we were talking about all of this, like, movie premiere, and, oh, you met the actor, so you got them to sign something. I've had this elaborate fantasy playing out in my head for, like, 9 months now that I'm like, if I play my cards right, if I just keep doing correct things, there's a non-zero chance. There's a possibility
You mean
that
Taylor
I
Swift?
might, I was going to say get invited to the FNAF 2 movie, but Taylor Swift, that would be nice too. Um, like, it's possible. I don't think that there really was a big premiere for the first one, but after the amount of money it made, they'd probably do a bigger deal for the second one. And like, it's possible if I just play my cards right that I could be there. And typically they like let you bring one guest, and I'm like, there's a couple people who I'd want to bring, but I'm sitting there like imagining like, oh my god, who would I take and how would I get there and like what would that weekend be like? And I'm just sitting here like, I'm sitting here fantasizing about this future instead of making it happen.
Mm.
And I need to get back on that grind set, that grind mindset. I need to get back to work. I need to make my future a reality instead of just dreaming about it. And so I sit down and I start working on a video. And then, I got to get up and I got to go to work. And I'm at work, and one of the guys that I work with is he's a film student, and he's recently gotten this passion to want to film a short film in the movie theater that we work at. And so I'm talking with him about it and about I might help finance it and going over like specifications, and like we're both coming up with cool like shots and ideas and like story beats and whatever. So I go home and I'm home for 2 days, and I'm like, I really want to like hammer out a script, right? Like I want to write a horror short film that takes place in a movie theater, keeping in mind the layout of our theater and the types of things we would have access to. And so I want to start typing away on that. And then I get this, I have this continual notion in my head that I am running out of time to make this very long video that I want to get out by my 30th birthday, which is out. It's exactly a year and a half from this week. I have exactly a year and a half from now. Um, so I'm like, oh, I gotta work on that too. And then I'm on Twitter and I see this thing I tweeted 8 months ago, or no, 4 months ago, and it was like, hey, I just got an idea for a video. I really want to start working on it. You guys might see it in June. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh, it's July, and I didn't even start writing that video. It was about
No.
Star Wars. So I'm just like, wow, I really keep being like, the biggest priority in my life right now is this video that I only have a year and a half to write. The biggest priority in my life right now is this script that I want to present to my buddy on Monday. The biggest priority in my life right now is getting out this FNAF video so that Matt Pat can react to it, hopefully. The biggest, priority in my life right now is publishing my novel so that when I quit my job, I'm not just relying on YouTube for income. So I just keep bouncing back and forth between all of these projects being the most important project, and thus I just make a snail's pace through all of them as opposed to finishing one and then moving on to the next.
Mm.
And I'm not sure what to do about that problem.
I mean, it sounds like you just gotta pick one and only work on that.
But I can only like work on it if I have the you can only do something creative if you have the drive to be doing it. You can't force yourself.
I think to a certain extent, sure, but if you go in that mindset and you're just not feeling it to work on this project and that lasts for a week, then you just don't do anything on it, and then you're like, whoa, and you haven't posted anything. I think there's a certain amount of like discipline, and you just have to be like, maybe this won't be my best work or the most creatively fulfilling, but like maybe by just sitting down and like trying to get something out, it'll like inspire other ideas and like reinvigorate other thought processes, or I can take it in a different way or whatever.
Which is why it's always good to have this. I'm just going to go into kind of general writing advice for other people. Like, it's always good to have more than one project so that when you're tired of one, you can still be productive and do the second one. Um, I also, one of the best pieces of advice I ever heard from anyone was a writer who came in to speak to my high school creative writing class, and someone asked him how he got over writer's block, and he was like, "Writer's block doesn't exist. Get over it. Like that. Like
Lols.
if you have writer's block, it is your fault. You're in the wrong location. If you're trying to write in your kitchen and you can't write in your kitchen, go somewhere else. If you're worrying about the dinner plans you have next week so you can't write, that's your fault. Get over it. There is no such thing as writer's block. There's only you getting in your own way. And I
Mm.
remember that like some of the people in the class were upset about that because they're like that just basically doubled down to me that he was right, and he's like, yeah, you're upset because he's blaming you,
Hmm.
but like he's right. So yeah, if I don't want to work on this movie script, I'm not going to, and it's not going to come out the way I want it. But that's because in my head I have these other priorities. And so the real issue is that I'm not creating clear priorities to myself.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah. maybe get a whiteboard or a notebook or whatever, and like, based on the timeline of everything, how important it is to you, etc. Just like number them, right? Be like, this uh the script with my buddy is, needs has the shortest deadline, and I could work with someone else on it, so maybe that's number one, just because I can make a rough draft and then he can take a look at it, and then I can work on my number two priority quickly after. And then your number
Yeah,
two one is the FNAF.
it's all about that sort of organizational stuff. It's also always good to have, kind of like what you said, have a project that doesn't take that sort of mental fortitude. Like one of my FNAF videos, I have to read through these stupid FNAF books. And so if I'm ever not in the mood to be flexing my creative muscles in writing, I can just read those stupid books so I'm still being productive.
Mm, mm. How do you feel about language? Uh, in terms of like what you say manifesting, right? Of like you just being like, well, I have to read these stupid books. And now that you've called them stupid, you're like, well, I don't really want to work with them. And then it just like creates more like build up in your mind of like, well, no, these books are dumb and I don't want to read them. And so then you don't read them.
Language is magic, so 100% you're correct. But,
Hang on, I just
but,
found the
I will
title of the
say.
episode.
No, language is magic. I could you know this. You know how long I could talk about language for. Me and Topher talk about it in our group chat all the time. Um, I will say that part of the appeal of the books is that they are stupid. Basically, the series I'm going to do is I'm reading for context for anyone out there. Five Nights at Freddy's is a indie horror series that is extremely popular, and despite the fact that it is gruesome and violent and goes over extremely dark subject matter, it is now mainly has an audience of children. And so they released these tie-in novels that are very similar to Goosebumps from the 90s, which is just like a typical horror story morality tale, but set with the characters from the Freddy's. So there's this one girl, and she thinks she's ugly. And she's like, I wish I was beautiful. And then she sees an animatronic in a scrapyard, and it looks beautiful to her, so she takes it home. And then it comes to life, and it's like, hey, thank you for saving me, I'll give you one wish. And she says, I wish to be beautiful. And the animatronic says, okay. And then the girl wakes up the next morning, and she's beautiful now. The animatronic, like, fixed her nose, and she's taller, and she's not as fat, but she's fat in all the right places. I think that's a line from the book.
Oof.
And like and like her nails are always painted perfectly. And she goes to school, and her best friend from kindergarten is like, "Wow, you're acting way different." And then the book is basically just Mean Girls, and
Mm.
she befriends all the mean girls, and then she goes on a date with this cute boy, and then everything's going right. But the animatronic says, "I'm going to give you a necklace, and you must never take off the necklace." And the girl says, "Okay." And then she's hanging out at school, and she's got it all. She's got her boyfriend, she's got the cool popular girls, and it doesn't matter that she had to throw away her lame friend from kindergarten, because she's lame, and she doesn't care about important things like appearances. And then she trips, and then the necklace falls off, and then her body starts to fall apart, and she, like, limps home, and all of the parts that she was beautiful with, that the robot made her, were actually just junk. She's just made of, like, springs and wires and bicycle change, and the necklace she was wearing was magically holding that together as a human body that looked nice to everybody who was looking at her. But really, on the inside, that was an illusion. On the inside, she was just junk. And so she's lying there in her garage, and the robot's laughing at her and is like, haha, I stole your body parts. Like, I cut off your arm and put on this bike lock, but it's in disguise because of the necklace. And the girl's like, wow, I guess I wasn't that ugly at all in the first place. I wish I hadn't made this wish. And then she dies. The junk, like,
What?
she just falls apart into junk and tin cans on the floor. And she's just dead.
What?
And
What?
the robot skips off happily with her body parts and is, like, now disguised as her. So, like, the robot can go now live as a human because she's, like, just wearing the girl's, like, face.
What? That's so wild. What?
Is it? To
I
me, I'm
mean,
like, yeah, that's a 60-page short story meant for 12-year-olds, where the lesson is, hey, don't hang out with the mean girls. Hey, your best friend from kindergarten might have not have the same interest as you anymore, but you really care about each other. Hey, don't throw away stuff for appearances. Hey, don't throw away stuff for boys. Hey, you got to
yes,
follow the rules. Hey, don't trust, strangers who are going to offer you what you want for nothing, seemingly nothing in return.
yes,
Like, it's a typical morality tale,
yes.
but it uses the character baby from Five Nights at Freddy's as the evil entity.
But the part the yes, none of that is wild per se, but the part that's like the animatronic destroyed her body and replaced it all with metallic junk and stuff, and she didn't feel that. Obviously, it's morality story, so fine, whatever. But like,
Yeah, yeah, like
but all,
the necklace, like disguised, like it uses the magic force that brings the animatronics to life to like say that it's taking this junk and allowing it to act as a human as long as the necklace with this magic contained in it is on her person.
but that's also just so like it's also just such a sadistic animatronic. Like, I get part of the point is like don't trust strangers or whatever, but like I have replaced your body with junk and now I have your body and am you. Get
Yep.
nated.
Yep.
Wild.
Yeah, a lot of them end with the kids dying.
I mean,
Because it's cool and edgy. Like Goosebumps almost never had the kids actually get hurt.
sure. But you don't need them to get hurt per se. I don't know,
But
maybe
that makes it edgier.
yeah, crazy.
There's one of them. Actually, my favorite one from a writing stance. There's one where there's this. She must be like 14. She must be like a freshman in high school, and she's a goth girl. And her parents are weird and just don't get her, and they're an embarrassment. And the whole town talks about those wacky couple that lives in this weird house, and their super goth daughter, and she thinks everyone's a faker and a phony, and only she's cool enough to do things like read Edgar Allan Poe and poetry. And so she's just obsessed with the macabre and like with death, and but like in like a Disney way, and like her favorite movie is probably Nightmare Before Christmas way, as opposed to like I don't know, watching snuff films way. And so she's just so full of herself and how everyone else is dumb. And then her parents like leave the country, and so she's living with her grandfather, who's even more out of touch, and he's so lame. And he just wants to talk with her, but she thinks he's dumb, and she just wants to hang out and read her books and be sad. And then there's a new boy in school, and the new boy in school is like, "Hey, you're reading Poe? I love Poe. You should read Lovecraft." And she's like, "Oh my god, he's perfect. He gets me." And he like gets her a book. It's like a Lovecraft book, and she's like reading it. She's like, "Oh my god, this kid is so cool, and he's my age." And so she's like writing these poems about how she wants to die, and then they turn into like love poems about how much she loves this boy. And then she like goes to meet with the boy, and he's dating like one of the blonde girls. And she's like, "Well, like I thought what we had was special. Why are you dating one of the fakers and the phonies?" And the boy's like, "What are you talking about?" And the goth girl's like, "You're dating Stacy. She's terrible." And the boy's like, "No, she's not terrible. She's really nice and she's really cool. Why don't you like her?" And the goth girl's like, "Well, because she's blonde and preppy." And the boy's like, you don't unironically believe that blonde girls are like stupid or vapid, do you? Or that people who are excited by life are somehow dumber than you are, right? Because like she's really into literature too, and she likes poetry and stuff. She just doesn't wear all black and talk about death all the time. And so then the goth girl has a mental breakdown, and it's Christmas time, and she's really upset, and her stupid aunts and uncles and cousins are over, and they just don't get her. And so she goes for a walk before Christmas dinner, and she winds up in her grandfather's shed, and her grandfather likes tinkering with things, so he has like a half put together plane in there and like motorcycle parts. And he has stuffed in the corner this old animatronic that he found in a junkyard, and it's Funtime Freddy from the hit video game series Five Nights at Freddy's. and she doesn't want her stupid cousins to find her. So she presses a button and the animatronic like opens up and there's like a hatch inside. So she crawls into the hatch to like hide. And then the animatronic comes to life and it rolls its eyes in the back of its head to look at her. And it's like, "Hello. I've heard your grandfather talking about you. You must be Millie. You're like the goth girl who he really wants to relate to, but he can't." And she's like, "Oh my god, this is so scary." And the bear's like, "Yeah, you used to talk about death all the time, so I'm going to grant you your wish and I'm going to kill you." And then he starts talking about all these ways that he wants to like kill her. He's like, "I can impale you. I could just stay closed and you'd starve to death. There's all these fun ways." And he starts like going through all these beautiful, quote unquote, beautiful ways that someone can die. And because that's obviously what she wants. She wants to die. And it ends with her sobbing and being like, "I don't really want to die. I guess I just don't like my current position in life, and I think of death as this like this temporary fantasy of escaping as a way to get out of it. But now that I'm faced with death, I realize that death isn't a temporary way to get out of it. Death is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and there's other ways I could go about making my life better." And the bear says, "Wow, that's really cool," and then he decapitates her.
Bruh. Uh, that was so close to not being a Five Nights at Freddy's story. They
So many
really
of them
are just like in the final 5 pages. We're like, oh shit, oh shit.
So many of them are just like, yeah, again, like it's just a typical morality tale. It's a monkey paw story, but it's not a monkey paw, it's a Freddy paw. Like that's literally what half of
That
these
was,
books are.
I mean, that one's not even a Freddy paw. It's just like, did you have bad views? Die, I guess. She didn't even learn. I mean, she did learn the lesson, but like,
She did learn her lesson, but then she died.
like at least the other girl got to like walk home and be like, "What's going on? Oh my gosh!"
And then die. I think that
And
might
then
be
die.
worse. Anyway, my point is, I'm reading these 60-page long short story morality tales that have a light coating of paint on them that's Five Nights at Freddy's themed. And that's why I call them stupid, because they're stupid. But the joke, the video series I'm going to make out of them, is I'm going to treat each one of them like it's serious literature. So I'm going to be analyzing and criticizing and dissecting them as if it was serious literature or poetry, but it's just a retelling of an ancient morality tale set in the modern day about teenagers with Five Nights at Freddy's. And that's the joke. And I'm going
Okay,
to do that for all of the short stories, and there's like 50 of these.
so the necklace is actually a symbol of your own self-perception, and when she tripped, that the necklace fell off because tripping is an embarrassing thing to have occur to you. So because she tripped and was embarrassed by her own action, that caused the necklace to fall off, thus revealing that she was literally made of junk. Mm-hmm,
Yeah, like
mm-hmm.
literally, like that's 100% true. The necklace is self-confidence. And so when she wears her self-confidence, she appears to be more beautiful. And when that illusion falls, when it breaks off, when people realize that confidence is manufactured, her true self comes out. And on the surface, she's beautiful, but underneath, she's really junk. Like, yes, that's actually it. But I'm talking more like going into like the like imagery symbolism and like, oh, it says here that her mother does this. Could this potentially be implying that this, right? Like I go too
Sure.
deep into it. I go so deep into it that like students would make fun of their English teacher for doing that. Like, oh, the door is blue because the author is sad.
Mr. Smith, the door's just blue.
Exactly. That's what I want my audience to say.
Silly Gibby. It's not that deep.
It's just blue. So yes, stupid books, but I'm enjoying myself reading them and writing these scripts, and hopefully by the time the first video comes out, I'll have like it'll like come out in a form I want it to and get a good reception.
Hey,
That's my plan.
you know what you can do?
What can I
You
do?
can make a small 30-second trailer and be like, if you want a sneak peek of the video I'm
Oh
making,
lordy.
That was
Oh,
basically
lordy.
just 20 minutes of a video you haven't made yet.
That's been a couple of these episodes where I talk to you about like, oh, the Walking Dead's allusion to the Scarlet Letter. Like that's
Sure.
probably going to end up being a full video on my channel at some point,
Hmm.
but just like more scripted.
Hmm.
You know what else? You know what else we could do for 30 seconds, Eric?
Um, chase each other.
In
And
a grand way.
yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Play the music.
Dun 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 dun. Hello and welcome back from that little runaround we did. I hope you ran around your own little place and chased.
I got a little wet. I
Oh,
fell in the river.
oh, yeah, that was a little we were going a little hard. Somebody tripped.
It was a little embarrassing. The facade of my confidence fell. Anyway, we're done with
Devin,
this
where'd that
metaphor. Let's move
necklace
on.
come
What are we doing,
from?
Eric? Oh my God! It must have been a gift from the sea monster.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe you're that far already. Hey, you know what I found earlier?
What did you found earlier?
I found a little note in a little bottle in a little egg crate that was lightly I can't think of another L word. But it's I figured you should just open it, so yeah.
Okay. It does look like it was lightly licked. Like it's almost peeled off.
Ah,
It's like it's not stuck together very well. Okay, let me just
you're
open this
so
envelope.
right.
Wow, it was really easy to take it off. Okay. This is from Jam. Hi, Jam.
Hi, Jim.
Jam has a couple nice things to say about the podcast. I appreciate it, Jam.
Thank you, Jam.
I hope you do well in school. He has two questions for me. He says, I was wondering if you have any fantasy book recommendations for someone who's a Harry Potter fan but hasn't really read too much outside of Harry Potter. I used to love reading books, but growing up I've fallen out of that in favor of video games, movies, and online stories. However, I've been wanting to try to get back into reading books, and so I've been wondering if you have any suggestions. I wish I had a better answer to this question because as much as society and culture might tell you that books are good and video games are bad, I don't agree with that. I think that good storytelling is good storytelling, and if it makes you feel something and if it gives you a better appreciation of other humans' experiences, then it is art and it is good and it is useful. Some of the best stories I've heard are in video games. I still think of the ending of Xenoblade Chronicles a lot. There are some movies, we've talked about movies on the show, Dune especially, that like we were able to talk about for a long time. And genuinely, my recommendation would actually be, on the book side of things, to read Dune, because that first book is very, very good. It's very different than Harry Potter. I wouldn't necessarily put them in the same genre, but obviously, if you're open to fantasy, then you would probably be more open to reading Dune than somebody who doesn't like that kind of genre fiction. Um, but there's a lot of just very nice, popular books that have come out over the last 20 years that nobody reads because people who say that they read books only read Harry Potter. And I'm totally guilty of that. I found that the easiest way for me to read a book is to sort of force myself to read a book that an upcoming movie is based on. Like, I probably never would have read Where the Crawdads Sing, or the book that Scorsese's film Killer of the Flower Moon is based on, which I think is just called Killers of the Flower Moon. Or I wouldn't have read Dune, or I wouldn't have read The Watchers if those weren't about to be movies I was going to go see. So that is expanding my horizons of novels to read, but it is also just in service of being able to then watch and discuss the movie. So I guess my answer is like, if you're finding it hard to motivate yourself to read a book or to go and find a book, read a book for a reason, right? Like ask your friend for a recommendation. Read a book because there's a TV show and you want to compare them. Read a book because you've heard things about it and you just kind of want an excuse to finally see what it's all about, right? Like I would never have read Dune if it wasn't for the movie, and I really prefer the book to the movie, so I'm glad I read it. So yeah, I guess my only My only answer is Dune. Oh, also, Song of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones books. Those are good. Those are fire and ice, I guess. Um,
Boo.
so yeah, that would be my suggestion. If you're having trouble reading, ask around. And books I have read recently that I enjoy were Dune and Game of Thrones. Eric, do you read any books that aren't manga?
Not really. So I would recommend some
Okay,
manga.
second.
hang
Oh
on,
my
hang
god.
on. I have some answers.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I mean, it feels a little bit like a cop out, but I remember growing up, right? If you read Harry Potter, you read Harry Potter and Percy Jackson and like the Cat Warriors and stuff like that. So you could try. I mean, they might be a little for a younger audience, but like people still really like Percy Jackson. So I think that would be fine. I personally enjoy mythology, and so just like books recounting myths, which is like I don't know, like you could approach it from like fantasy kind of like I don't know, it's still real people's cultures and stuff, but the stories are very fantasy-esque, fantastical, if you will. I also listen to audiobooks sometimes, so I'm so biased, but there's an author, Benjamin, air quotes, Yahtzee Croshaw. He has a few like sci-fi and fantasy books you could check out.
Wait, Yahtzee the YouTuber?
Yahtzee, the YouTuber who used to make zero punctuations and now makes
Yeah.
fully ramblematics on the channel Second Wind. Yeah, he has like, I don't know, 7 books. Um,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that fast talking British man who has no idea what he's talking about wrote books. I didn't know that.
yeah, they're really good books.
And you
Um,
like actually read them?
I mean, I listen to them on Audible because he also
Oh.
does his own audiobooks for them. And I think he's a delight to listen to. So I would
Huh.
recommend some of those. His first book, I believe, was Jam, or maybe it was Mog World. Jam is what if there is an apocalypse about Jam. Mog World is about what if zombies raised by a necromancer were treated as employees as a company. Yeah, he's got some fun books. Well, I forget the name of his like ongoing fantasy series. It's like the something files. Um, but very fun. And I mean, manga. I could give you endless manga recommendations, but if you're strictly looking for books, traditional novels, that won't.
I will say that I did read the first two and a half Percy Jackson books when that show was coming out because like everyone I work with was talking about it again. That is something that was like it. Those books came out after I was old enough to be reading them, so I did not read those when I was younger. Um, and the first one was like, oh, that's pretty cool for like a kid's book. Like I put it in the same category as something like Artemis Fowl, which I
Mm,
did read when I was a kid. Second one was not good. Third one, I was just bored, so I kind of stopped. But that's because I was sitting there reading these children's books, and they were just not engaging because they're not supposed to be. Because I'm an almost 30-year-old man.
sure.
So it's that category of like everyone's like these were so amazing, and I'm like yeah, because you were a kid.
I mean,
Like
you
I'm sure
could.
if I tried to introduce someone to Artemis Fowl now, they wouldn't be as mesmerized by it as I was when I read it as a kid.
I feel like you could make that same argument with Harry Potter, but it's
I
neither
disagree
here.
strongly
That's
because I think Harry Potter is real literature.
we can just move along to the next question.
Okay, time will prove me right. Hmm. Second question: do you prefer the hot or the cold? This is critical information. I'm currently sweating so much, and my answer is always, always, always the cold, because the age old wisdom.
Yep,
The colder it gets, the more layers you can put on.
yep,
When it's hot, at some point, you're just doomed to die.
yep.
You can't take off your skin even if you want to.
Yep. That is the exact logic I would use as well. Cold for life, baby. And also, if you're cold and then consume a hot thing, to me that just feels way better than like being hot and consuming a cold thing.
Being hot and consuming a cold thing, like ice
Yeah.
cream?
Yeah. Or an ice pop or a Slurpee or you know, whatever. Like, I would rather have a hot chocolate on a winter's day than an ice cream cone on a summer's day. You feel?
Yes.
Yeah. So, cold all day, every day.
Okay, now I guess we have a question for you.
Oh, what do you mean you guess?
I guess. First, I've been curious ever since you mentioned it on the podcast. Why do you dislike Kingdom Hearts 3? Is there anything which you enjoy about Kingdom Hearts 3?
Jam. Jam. My special little guy that I don't put on toast. Um, Kingdom Hearts 3 to me was just very flawed in terms of gameplay. I don't want to be like, oh, the gameplay was too easy, blah blah blah. I don't mind if gameplay is on the more simple sides and you just kind of like are having fun with it. That's fine. But like I remember the ride mechanic, like, at various points in combat, press triangle and you can ride Splash Mountain or whatever. And it felt like those just popped up all of the time. I also played and beat Kingdom Hearts 3 on the within 2 days of the day of it coming out. So I didn't see any of like the patches or the DLC, etc. So that has colored me slightly. Um, so it would have been nice if like on a gameplay level, like the rides mechanics, like I don't know, there was a more specific thing you had to do to trigger them, or like I just remember them showing up all the time, and then they were fun. But I felt like it just was too
If I
too.
can interject, I think that's really stupid because the game makes it so that this event of using the rides in an attack seems like it's very special, but then the gameplay doesn't. I think that's just the aesthetics of the attack being more cool than the attack itself, and just saying, "Oh, well, all you have to do to do it is to hit a button." Well, yeah, that's how you do every single one of your attacks.
But there's no like in Kingdom Hearts 2 when you wanted to do like a reaction thing, it was like, oh, an enemy is about to use a special move, so you can parry or
Yeah,
whatever.
but this isn't a parry.
Right.
It's like a combo build up thing.
But was there a combo meter that was like if you build up
If
to
there
enough
wasn't a
of this?
meter, if there wasn't a meter, there was definitely a hidden meter that the game was keeping track of. Like,
Eh,
yeah, like you attack and then you do a special move. I just thought it was a cool way of making the fights not look as boring.
but you had the shot lock, you had magic, like there were so many mechanics already happening in it that
Yeah, and
it
this
just
isn't a mechanic. This is an attack that just looks cool.
that's a mechanic. What do you mean?
No, I think you're misreading it. I think it's just an attack that looks cool.
But it takes 30 seconds of gameplay to do, and it has at the very least some type of gauge to determine when it will happen, and then
Yeah, so
you
it's an
do it.
attack that looks cool.
Right, but it's still a mechanic of the game. Everything
Yeah, just like how hitting square makes the keyblade swing is a mechanic of the game.
square is block, Devin.
Oh my god, it doesn't matter.
Anyway,
I think that you have had these issues with the game for like 7 years, And I think that if you went back and you played the game and you brought out of your mind any criticism that you have heard on YouTube and tried to engage with the game as it is intended for the player, I think you would have different opinions than the ones you currently hold.
Devin, I have not watched a single YouTube video about Kingdom Hearts 3. How dare
I
you?
don't believe you. I
Why would
don't
I?
believe you.
Why would I? No one else has better takes on it than me.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I have my own preconceived biases, sure, but I haven't watched a YouTube video on Kingdom Hearts 3 and went, yeah, everything this guy's saying. I do that for other
You haven't
things.
watched a YouTube video or read a Tumblr post or literally anything where someone expressed their opinions about the game?
I mean, I probably went on Tumblr at some point, but everyone was just crying about how
Eric, that's
sad
worse
it
than
was.
YouTube.
No, but people weren't being like, wow, the theming of the thing and the gameplay. No, everyone was like, oh my gosh, this character is back, my child baby. That's what I was seeing on Tumblr.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Hmm.
no spoilers. In terms of like the story and stuff, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 was kind of set up for failure in a way that it just had too many things to tie up, and it could just never be as big as it needed to be to satiate everything that it had to do. Right? So, minor spoilers, maybe major spoilers for Kingdom Hearts 3, right? Like,
Incoherent plot synopsis for people who don't know what the series is about.
I'm so sorry. Listen, this part's not for you. I just got to say that now. um,
You're answering a question.
Roxas meets Ventus, and Ventus meets Roxas, and they have a very unique relationship because of how they exist. And people were very, and myself included, were very excited to see like what happens if they meet. Can they even exist at the same time with Sora? What happens? And they nod to each other, and that's it. And we're just not gonna talk about it. And it's okay, that's fine. Or wow, Aqua's been trapped in the darkness because Mickey hates her, and we have to dedicate this whole rescue mission to get her because she's obviously super powerful. And then the one fight she has, she loses because she wasn't that powerful, actually. Um,
That's just how. That's just how
Kyrie does
stories go.
nothing.
I listen. I This is both a good thing and a bad thing about
Axel Lee
the
does
game.
nothing.
You you saying like, oh, they didn't have enough time to satiate everyone. They absolutely did. They wasted so much time in that game where Sora just hops through Frozen, where they invent this thing that's not even a Disney movie for them to like be little toy Gundam robots, where they play through Toy Story like 5 to Story 3.5. This is a very very long video game, and they could have told the story of the original characters, and could have done all that. That's just not what they wanted to do. And you, as a person who values the story of the original characters, didn't like that. And I'm sure that there's people out there who just wants to play through Disney movies as an anime boy who thought that it was the best one and just discounts that half hour at the end where the stupid anime people with hair that they don't know are talking about nonsense.
Uh-huh.
Like it just wasn't made for you.
I agree and disagree. Like, obviously the game had to be made with the Disney things because Disney is got them on a leash. Um,
But there could have been plot development in the Disney world as
but that's
opposed to
never, well, okay, not never.
but it could be.
That
Like you're saying it's an impossibility. That some like oh, the time crunch and the money made it so that they couldn't wrap up Roxas's story while Frozen's going on. Like no, that was a creative decision.
a creative decision made with limitations and constraints put on by companies and whatever.
I highly doubt that.
I I can very much see Disney being like, so you're having all the princesses in there and they're portrayed in good lights, and are only depicting them in more or less the way the movies did, lest we confuse anyone or anything. We can't have Elsa being more bad because Frozen 2's got to come out.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with not putting, not giving Vanitas time to shine in the Pirates of the Caribbean level. Like, that's just not what the game makers were doing.
None of the original characters shine in any of the like Disney worlds
Yeah.
more or less. Like that
Yes,
started in Kingdom Hearts 1. They aren't gonna all of a sudden be like in the final
but they
game
could
of this
have.
saga. What but then you're ruining an established precedent and tradition of like how the game plays and what happens in it. Which, yeah,
Well,
they could
which
have
which you're
made
saying that you don't like.
anything. They could have
Yeah,
made
so you're
Sora
saying that you don't like it.
toast. Yeah, when
Yeah. So I'm just saying that I don't think it's a limitation imposed on them
I think it
for anything
is.
real like time or money. I think that they just wanted that to be the game, but that's not what you wanted.
I disagree. I do think they had limitations and certain conditions that had to be met that influence certain things. Obviously, at the end, right, they had, the Keyblade Graveyard and Scala at Kylum, their own original worlds, and they just went off for an hour to talk about their original characters. I think would have been like I don't know if this would have been better or not, but if they had broken the games up into two, one where you did all the Disney things and or just maybe a different game to just tie up smaller ends first and then tie up the bigger ends.
You have a
Trope.
40-hour game here
It is
across multiple worlds.
24
That
hours.
that could have just been the game. Like, again, I think that they on purpose, for whatever reason, made them think this was the best way to do it is debatable, and we can both say it was wrong for them to do this. But they decided that was not what they wanted to do.
I I don't think you can say like wants when like
No, I think you can. That's the only thing you can say based on the piece that they made. They clearly did what they want, and what they wanted was to just have a
no,
Kingdom Hearts
that's
game. They
so
they didn't see it.
no,
That's
no,
how
no,
art
no.
works.
You but you don't
You're just inventing
if you are a
stuff.
contractor for a company and they
Hmm.
say like like look at any like I did not go super into it, so I don't know a ton of it. But if you look at artists like Kesha, right, where her first few albums, she was under her contractor's thumb and all this stuff happened, and she just had to put out music that was in this certain demographic because that is what was demanded of her. Like, sure, ultimately, was the song that she put it out eventually what she wanted to an extent, I guess, but also she didn't want to make that type of music in the first place. She was forced to. Like there are examples I don't know, you work for a big company or someone like that gets enough power over you that
Yeah,
like
so if Disney or Square is like, "Hey, you have to make a mobile game." And so then, the story group for Kingdom Hearts led by Nomura is like, "Okay, well, it's going to be this." And then they make, Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key, right? Like the mobile game. You can say that ultimately that was a decision of the corporate office, but that the exact way that the game looks was down to the people who made the story. The corporate office can say Kingdom Hearts 3 needs to include Toy Story and Frozen and Big Hero 6. And then it's within that guide, that limitation for the creators to tell their story. There is no way that Mr. Bob Disney Man said you're not allowed to wrap up Shion and Roxas's story in the Big Hero 6 level. Like that's not allowed. Like there's no way
I
that that
I
happened.
could see there being a stipulation that like you cannot have major original character events transpire in a way that would supersede Disney events. Like Roxas and Xion can't meet up in the final boss battle of Big Hero 6 because then it takes away the shine from Big Hero 6.
Then they could get around that and have a little cutscene that happens after that world where it happens, right? Like they could spread the climax over the course of the game instead of it all just being at the end. Again, I think that it
Sure.
was structured the way it was because that's what they wanted it to be, even if I think that that outcome was worse. I don't think that just blaming it on the corporation is fair when I think the artist just kind of floundered.
Yes, the artist could totally have floundered. But I think someone floundering and saying that's also what they want is like that like incompatible things. Unless you're saying they were just like so
They
done with
tried
it they
something
didn't
and it was
care.
bad. Yeah, they tried something and it didn't work.
Shrug. Shrug.
That's my opinion. I think that you've allowed this hatred you have for this game to be a part of you for so many years, and it's good if you just if you just let it go. Let it go. Thank you.
Also, as a brief side note, just because yeah, I made I brought up the Kesha thing. I'm not trying to compare
I know
different
literally nothing about
hurts.
Kesha. I have negative knowledge about Kesha.
That's
The things I
fine.
think I know about her are wrong.
The things you know about her are wrong.
Me and you had a conversation 6 months ago. I thought Kesha was
Yes.
black until like 6 months ago.
Right.
The things I think I know about her are
Yes.
incorrect.
Anyway, I brought that up, but I don't also want to be uh, I don't know, an individual's struggles and like stuff that she went through and comparing it to a video game. Eh. Gross in hindsight, slightly, maybe. I don't know. I'm putting this out there.
I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about. You know that song? I don't want to write you a love song. You know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the story behind it.
No.
The studio mandated that she have a love song on her album, and so she wrote, "I don't want to write you a love song because you asked for it
Lols.
because you need one. You see, I'm not going to write you a love song if you
Yeah.
tell me it's make it or break it." So she wrote it about how she didn't want to do it, and it became like a huge hit. So I don't know who really won at the end in that one.
Sure.
But yeah, that was her creatively following a studio mandate and telling them that like to screw off basically.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's maybe still up in the air, but Kesha was basically just abused in various ways by her.
Like by the studio.
Yeah, by one guy, Dr. Luke. Um, but apparently, I am not super. I don't try to keep in touch with celebrity knowledge, but I do like Kesha's music, so I heard bits of it. So I'm not super informed. But then as you were talking during that, and then I was like, oh, I've brought up Kesha's abuse story and comparing it into how things get made, and then comparing it to Kingdom Hearts, it just felt, eh, eh,
I don't
not
think
appropriate.
that
I don't know,
I,
man.
I I
I
don't
don't
think that
know,
that
man.
comparison needs to be apologized for.
I don't know. Anyway, also, I don't
Anyway,
hate
there's one more
Kingdom
question
Hearts
for you.
3. No, wait.
Hmm.
It's just, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. um, and I don't know. It's not like I think about it every day. Truly, it does
Do
not
you
enter.
not?
No, I only think about it when it comes up for like questions and topics. Like, I have, like, the game came out, what, 4 years ago or something? Like, it's head
I
empty.
think like 6 years ago. Six
6
years
years,
ago.
like, it's not living in my head rent free. Will I play Kingdom Hearts 4? Yeah, maybe. I like. we'll see, I guess. If I have the console for it, if it comes out on the new next gen thing, maybe I won't, because maybe I just won't buy it or whatever. Like the console. Um, like I am still kind of curious to see what happens with it. Like, I don't know. Um, but to just more like a synopsis, simplified version for Jam's question, in case he didn't listen to the whole 20
Hmm.
minute rant. I was disappointed by all the things that could have happened and didn't, and that I guess I felt were going to happen and then didn't. The gameplay was overall fun though, and the story had enough breadcrumbs in it to keep me somewhat satiated. Um, I think you can just see sloppiness in a lot of places. I do kind of blame Nomura.
Nomura, the director of the game, yes, he's also
Yes.
who I would blame. Okay,
But
so
I do think Disney could have had their mitts in it of a little, not as much as him,
I doubt it.
perhaps.
I
But
doubt it.
I could see them being like, Elsa's gotta, I don't know, sing "Let It Go," and you're, I don't know. I'm just rambling now.
Okay, so uh, you've been trying to get into shape by doing exercises. What exercises do you do? Which ones would you recommend for someone who's also looking to get into better shape?
Jam, my little guy, my special boy. I mean those affectionately. I
As
enjoy.
opposed to what?
I don't know, in condescendingly. Like some people might
Okay.
not like being called, my little guy, but I'm just letting them know it's said with affection. Um, so what exercises have I been doing? Squats, uh, so weighted squats, like a goblet squat, where you like hold a weight and then do a squat with it. Uh, uh, what do you dumbbell raises, dumbbell presses, I guess is the term. I don't know the names for all of them. I'm sorry. Um, a lot of like free weights and just like moving around with those. Um, I'd say that's probably about like 30% of what it is of just like lifting weights like at an angle, laying down, sitting straight up, etc. Um, I enjoy leg press is probably my favorite machine because man, you have so strong in your lower body because it's been carrying you. Um, so I can just have fun on a leg press because my legs are just so strong. So enjoy that. Lat pull downs, uh, lat rowing. I don't know if it's called lat rowing, but you know, having a big bar, pulling it down, and then rowing with one. Um, what else? Seated leg curls, leg extensions, or some other good fun machines. Devin did some of these, and he didn't like it because I put too much on him on one day, and now he doesn't want to hang out with me. Um, Also bouldering, which isn't like a gym thing per se, but like I have brought that up before, and I do think it's like I don't know about gyms across the world, but I feel like our gym is so bland and like I don't know. It you can't see outside and you're just kind of mindlessly working out and whatever. But then you go bouldering and you're like running around climbing things and whatever, and then sometimes you go outside and you go on a walk or you play soccer by yourself and you're like, yeah. Playing soccer by yourself is just kicking a ball because I scared Devin away.
Because you scared me away with your rowing machine, so I wouldn't play soccer with you.
Yeah, that's how it happened, right?
That is how it happens.
And then also going on hikes. I don't think there's not a. That's probably about it. There's maybe some other machine exercises in the gym, but my favorite is leg press. Big recommend. There are two kinds. There's one kind where like you move, like you sit on a chair and you push against like a little wall and you move on the chair. That's the safe version. There's a slightly more, I personally speaking, I'm not like a science man or whatever, but there's like another version where like you're sitting in place and you're pushing the weights up and down. So in theory, if you struggle and like your legs give out or something, I'm sure there's a safeguard, but it looks like the weights could just fall on you. um, these machines are made by people, so I'm sure there's plenty of safeguards to stop that, but just watching people do it, I'm like, I would just rather sit in the chair and move myself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Treadmill, stairmaster, stair machines, great. Always makes me sweat.
I like the elliptical. It's better on my knees.
Yeah, yeah. My knees so fine are fine, but one day I fear they may not be. Also, if you're looking to work out because you want to work out, valid, do you. If you want to like try and lose weight, the thing that I have learned and struggle with is a lot of it is in the kitchen, right? What you eat and how you eat and when you eat, and the gym only goes so far, which is kind of annoying. So, make sure you eat well enough and stuff. I've started eating salads like every day-ish. It's already starting to get old.
Yeah, because salads aren't going to provide you the energy you need to do the workout that you're trying to do and are not the best thing to do to lose weight unless you're eating them correctly.
I just have a salad as like a meal to keep me full for the day. Like after workouts or something. Like I'll still have like a protein shake or like some eggs and what do you call them, hash browns or whatever. But then like, you know, I have, 6 hours until dinner. Let me just eat a salad with a chicken in it as some protein. And like if you go to like a grocery store, right, and they have like a prepared bag of salad and it's like 3.5 servings in the bag, I will eat like half of that bag or the entire bag with a chicken. And that'll just keep you full because it's just a bunch of food. Like it's 100 calories per serving. So if you eat the entire bag, it's like 350 calories because there's half a serving for some reason. And like that, you're just full from that because it's just still a lot of food in you that your stomach has to digest. And you should be getting like 5 servings of fruits and vegetables daily, allegedly, according to health people, maybe. You know?
Well, thank you for your questions, Jam, and if anyone out there wants to ask us questions that will lead us on to an hour-long rant, you too can send them in to slapendipity@gmail.com.
It was only like half an hour. Jam
Well, that's
really
after we
knows how
cut
to.
out the half hour. It's after we cut out the half hour where we talked about salads fighting the Heartless in Kingdom Hearts.
I'm surprised despite having like Remy in Twilight Town, there was no Salad Heartless. That would have been a good
Sad.
little. I mean, I guess salads don't have hearts, but They have lettuce hearts, maybe. Like a heart of head of lettuce? Heart of lettuce?
It's a head of
Well,
lettuce.
I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
It's a head of lettuce.
Okay.
Or an iceberg of lettuce.
Yeah, but isn't there like if you have an artichoke or something, there's like a heart to it.
A heartichoke. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Boy, I feel like I really just took the reins and lost control in the last half there.
It's fine. We can fix it in post.
No one will have to hear it unless they're hearing it now. Goodbye,
But no one
everybody.
will be hearing it for much longer. Goodbye.